A few years ago, I went out to dinner with a friend at a new restaurant in town. We were excited to try the food, and we had a great time catching up and chatting. But when it came time to pay the bill, things got a little bit confusing. My friend suggested that we split the check, and I agreed. I assumed that we would each pay for our own meal. But when the waiter came to collect our payment, my friend handed him a credit card and said, "Put it all on one." I was surprised and a little bit embarrassed. I didn't have enough cash on me to cover both of our meals, and I didn't want my friend to have to pay for my food. I tried to explain the situation to my friend, but there was a bit of a language barrier between us. English wasn't her first language. She thought that splitting the check meant that we would each pay for half of the total bill. In the end, we managed to work things out. I paid my friend back later, and we both had a good laugh about the misunderstanding. It was a funny and memorable experience, and it taught me the importance of being clear and specific when communicating with others, especially when it comes to money. Last year, I had the opportunity to visit Japan for the first time. I was excited to experience the unique culture and see the beautiful sights that the country had to offer. On my first day in Japan, I decided to explore the city by myself. I was feeling confident. I had done plenty of research and felt like I had a good idea of where to go and what to see. But as soon as I stepped out of my hotel, I realized that things weren't going to be as easy as I thought. The signs were all in Japanese, and I couldn't read anything. I didn't know how to ask for directions, and I felt lost and overwhelmed. Just when I was starting to panic, a friendly local came up to me and asked if I needed help. He spoke English and offered to show me around the city. I was so grateful for his kindness and eagerly accepted his offer. He took me to some amazing places that I never would have found on my own: hidden temples, beautiful parks, and delicious local restaurants. We talked about our different cultures and shared stories about our lives. At the end of the day, we said goodbye and exchanged contact information. I felt like I had made a new friend in a foreign country, and it was an experience that I would never forget. Over the next few days, I continued to explore Japan with newfound confidence. I tried new foods, visited incredible museums and galleries, and even took a bullet train to another city. As my trip came to an end, I felt grateful for the unexpected adventures and the kindness of strangers. I realized that sometimes, the best experiences come when you step outside of your comfort zone and allow yourself to be open to new people and new experiences. I had been looking forward to my trip to the beach for months. I had packed my sunscreen, my towel, and my favorite book, and I was ready to relax and soak up some sun. But as soon as I arrived at the beach, I realized that things weren't going to go quite as planned. For starters, it was much more crowded than I had anticipated. Families and groups of friends had set up their beach chairs and umbrellas everywhere, leaving very little room for me to find a spot. Eventually, I managed to squeeze myself onto a patch of sand between two groups of people. I set up my towel and started applying sunscreen, hoping that I could at least get a little bit of relaxation in. But just as I was about to settle in with my book, I noticed that the family next to me had brought a small dog. The dog was running around and barking, and I could tell that it was going to be a distraction. Sure enough, as soon as I opened my book, the dog came bounding over to me, wagging its tail and sniffing around my bag. I tried to shoo it away, but it wouldn't listen. Instead, it started digging a hole in the sand right next to me, kicking sand all over my towel. Feeling frustrated, I decided to take a break and go for a swim. But as soon as I got in the water, I realized that the waves were much stronger than I had anticipated. I kept getting knocked over and pulled under, struggling to stay afloat. After a few minutes of flailing around, I managed to make it back to shore, coughing up seawater and feeling embarrassed. As I trudged back to my towel, I couldn't help but think that this was turning out to be a pretty terrible day at the beach. But just as I was about to pack up and go home, a group of teenagers set up their towels nearby. They were blasting music and dancing around, having the time of their lives. And for some reason, watching them lifted my spirits. I realized that I had been taking everything too seriously. Sure, the beach was crowded and the waves were strong, but that didn't mean I couldn't still have a good time. So I put on some sunscreen, grabbed my book, and joined the teenagers in their dance party. In the end, I had a blast at the beach, despite the crowds, the dog, and the waves. And I learned that sometimes, it's important to let go of your expectations and just go with the flow. This one is about a miscommunication between me and a coworker. A few years ago, I was working on a team project with a coworker. We were both responsible for creating a presentation to share with our boss and some other colleagues. One day, I sent an email to my coworker with the subject line "Meeting Notes." In the body of the email, I wrote a list of ideas that I had for the presentation, along with some general notes about what I thought we should include. A few minutes later, I received a reply from my coworker. It said, simply, "Great, thanks for the minutes." I was confused. Minutes? What minutes? I hadn't taken any notes during our meeting, so I had no idea what my coworker was talking about. I wrote back and asked, "What minutes are you talking about?" My coworker replied, "The ones you sent in the email." It took me a few seconds to realize my mistake. In my haste, I had accidentally used the wrong word in the subject line of my email. Instead of a meeting notes, I had written meeting minutes, a term that is often used to refer to a summary of a meeting's discussions and decisions. My coworker had assumed that I was sending her a summary of our previous meeting and had responded accordingly. It was a funny miscommunication, and we both had a good laugh about it. We quickly cleared things up and got back to work on our presentation. And from that day forward, I made sure to double-check my emails for any potentially confusing or misleading wording. And if you have similar story or any kind suggestion quote future videos, then please drop the comment and have nice day. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more fun content like this.